Hello and welcome back to I Have No Idea What I'm Doing. It is currently midnight, the morning before I'm supposed to be uploading this episode, and I realised I forgot to record the intro, so I'm doing it very quickly now. In this episode we are going to be looking at ripping out a lot of the JSON server stuff that we did last time and replacing it with a Firebase database so that we can get some real-time updates to the app and get some cards moving across devices and certain things like that. So, short and sweet intro here. I've got to get going, and we've got some learning to do. Okay, so last time we added in JSON Server to handle all our kind of database requests so that we could get a proper look at actions before we messed on with Firebase. And it works pretty well. So now we can refresh the page and our state remains the same. So and we can like add onions and whatever into this the play area here. And then when we refresh the page, the cards are in exactly the same place that we left them before. So these are still up here, and you can see this is logging out the requests that we made to JSON Server. So we got all the cards. We posted to the play area, we did a delete to remove a card from the play area, and then post another card, delete from player one and then post the card to the play area. Not the best way to do this is we can end up losing cards, but it got us looking at how to handle get requests, post requests and delete requests all in one fell swoop, so that was pretty handy. Now, when you learn things, one of the things that you will learn when you're learning about learning is that you can't be too precious about what you've done, because you will scrap a lot of the things that you've written in favour of a better method. So today we are actually going to scrap a lot of the stuff that we did in the last episode, as we're going to take out JSON Server and we're going to replace it with Firebase. Because now we know how actions work on a simpler scale, we can get the more complicated stuff in there and be a bit more comfortable with the action side of things and focus on learning how Firebase plays with Vuex. So obviously if I was to kill this JSON server here and then refresh the page, everything goes away. So that's the reason we're gonna use Firebase. So first thing we do is we head on over to Firebase. You'll need to log in with a Google account if you're following along. You'll need your own Firebase thing, but we can add a project, call it Devs Against Humanity. Devs Against Humanity. Cool. I am in the United Kingdom. It's actually quite warm today, which is rare for the United Kingdom, but there you go. Happy days. Right, that was nice and quick. Now, what we want to do is so you can use Firebase with various different things. I'm not going to do a tutorial on Firebase as such. It's a whole other thing. It's really nice though. I'd recommend you do take a look at it. But we just want the database stuff. So if I jump into the database, I don't actually know what. Okay, so this is something new that's more powerful. I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to leave it for now, and I'm going to get started with the real-time database. This is something I'm a little bit more familiar with, and we're going to start it in test mode, which just basically opens up read and write to the world. So you can get more complex with these further down the line, and say you can only read from the database if you're authorized, or you can only read from a certain section of the database if you're authorized as a certain person. But we'll start it in test mode so that read and write is true, and then like the warning says, anybody will be able to read and write your database. So yeah, you have to be a bit careful. Right, that's fine. Let's dismiss that. Okay, so this is our blank database, really. The reason I did JSON Server before is because it's very similar to Firebase in a way, and Firebase stores pretty much all its data in JSON, or a JSON-like structure at least. So if you go up here, you can actually import JSON, and that will just populate your entire database. We could just import the database that we had before, but I want to make a couple of changes to it. In fact, I'll show you why. If I just do this quickly. So we are in our directory here, and then we got to collections.json. So this is just the file that we were watching with JSON Server. And if I import it, it's in exactly the same state as it was. I'll turn JSON Server back on. We've got these 3 cards in the play area, and then the rest of them are in the player 1's hand. So we can see, like, we've got the 3 cards in the play area, and then the rest of them in the player 1 hand. And you see, like, a duffel bag full of lizards is a duffel bag full of lizards. So that's all well and good, and it brings it in fine, but we do want to store other things in this database eventually. So I'm going to hide this inside a collections object. So if I open up, collections, I just basically want to say collections up here, and then that should, let's kill that. That should allow us to import it again. Invalid JSON. Okay, I thought I'd have to. Let's try that. Import it again. There we go. Right, so now we have collections, and then inside our collections we have the data as we did before. So that's nice and simple. We can see everything is exactly the same as it was in our JSON file. So that's basically how you get data into Firebase to get you started. So now we want to use the JavaScript SDK to start pulling the data out and into our app. What we want to do there is, if we go up to the project overview and hit this handy dandy button here, it gives us what we need to add Firebase to our web app. Now if I just copy this as it is, and we make a new file called and we just save it in I'll save it in data for now. Firebase.js, and we paste this in. Now we don't want to install Firebase like this. We want to swap that out for an import script, but we'll do that later. And since it is JavaScript, we don't need that. So what we've got is we have a config with our API key, our auth domain, our database URL, our project ID, storage bucket, and messaging sender ID. I'm not overly sure what all of these things are, but this will populate all the right ones for you for your database, which is why it's pretty nice to. It's a pretty nice way of getting it in. It's easier than going through the docs and then finding where all of these things live and dropping them all in. Just literally on the home page, hit that button, and it generates it all for you. So what we want to do is we want to do things a little bit more ES6, and we want to yarn add Firebase, and instead of including it as a script like we had before, we want to do an import script. No, not that. Oh god. Import statement from Firebase, and we want to import 2 things. We want to import Initialize app, and we also want to import the database. Now what we do here, instead of var's alright, I guess. I'm going to swap it for a const just because this doesn't want to be Firebase.initialize app anymore, it just wants to be initialize app. And we want to export from this file the database, which is just going to be database. Okay, right. So all this is doing is bundling all the Firebase config and setup into one file, so that we've got the config, we initialize the app with the config, and then we export the database out of there, so that in our app we can just literally say like database and then do whatever we want with the database, and we don't need to worry too much about all the Firebase nonsense. Right, what we want to do from here is we want to pull into our store. I want to import Firebase from, and not Firebase, but where is it? It's in data Firebase. So this imports this file basically, or this object, and then we want to say view.use Firebase. Should work, maybe. We'll see. Let's just power through. So I realize this is called, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have used Firebase before, and I have integrated Firebase into React and Redux projects, so a lot of this is fairly familiar to me. Rather than explain it too much, I'm just going to go ahead and do it as I think it will work, and then when it inevitably doesn't work as I expect it to, I'll reel back and figure out the Vue way of doing things. So in theory, if I go into the cards module, what I want to do in here is, you see how I'm just going to fetch the cards for now. So we were fetching them from Axios and then saying set the collections to be the response. What we want to do instead is we want to fetch these things from Firebase. So I want to import, wait there, let's do this properly, import from, nope, data Firebase, oh, I want to import the database from data.firebase, so that's this here. In theory, if we do, I can't remember how you do it exactly, so if I go to the docs, I'm sure it'll tell me. So what we want to do is we want to initialize the Firebase database and then watch that for change-ins. It's got a little, don't know what that is. Yeah, we've done all that. Database, that's what we want. Okay, so I cut away there because I was just basically reading documentation and nobody wants to see that. I think I've got it now though. So what we want to do is we want to look at the database that we pulled in up here. I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see where I'm pointing. The database up here, and then we want to say ref. So this basically says what part of the database do we want to look at, and we want to look at the collections. And then there's two ways we can go here. We can say .once, which says go fetch the data and then give me it back and then I'm done with it, which is kind of what we're doing with this Axios endpoint. But the real power really of Firebase is that it's a real-time database. So instead of just saying go get me the data and then when you return it I'll do something with it, we can add in a listener. So we can say on value snapshot. Oop. So what that does is say every time it hooks into Firebase and it says, okay, Firebase, every time a value changes inside this collections reference, return me the data again. And then what we can do with that is, in fact, I'm just going to set a debugger in here because I am not entirely sure what this snapshot returns. We don't want this Axios stuff anymore, so let's get rid of that. Now in theory, all being well, export database was not found in blah 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 database. Oh right, okay. So we want to include Firebase like this, and then do Firebase.database.ref. Sorry, that's me not understanding the 6 modules there. Right, this is looking more promising. And there's our debugger statement. So we've successfully connected to Firebase, and right, where was our debugger? Okay, so we're inside here. So what does a snapshot look like? Is it snapshot.ref? No. I can't remember how you get the data back now. Snapshot.val, that's it. So it's snapshot.val. There we go. We've got there's our collections. So what we want to do is, actually, if I bring back the Axios stuff just a sec to look at it. Yeah, we want to commit. We want to copy this and just redo all that. So, as with the Axios stuff, we want to commit to set collections the response data, but the response data is not actually response.data, it is snapshot.val. Now in theory, this should just work because our getter will just get the data from the collections as normal. Our set collections just sets whatever collections it's passed to it. So the only thing that's changed is our action. Okay, this is the moment of truth. We need a drum roll here. We just jump across. Now, in theory, this should pull all the cards in from Firebase directly. Let's see if we've done everything right. Let's. Oh, there's something. There's something. This may be, and I have no idea what I'm doing first, where everything just worked. Let's see. Now, in theory, we should have the same data as we did before. We do. Everything's being pulled in. Let's see. Collections, play area 1, 2, 3, player 1, 6. We saw that. Last card is Salsonite, Dave's Cantina, Salsonite Dave. So we're getting the data, and that's good. Now, if you remember me saying earlier, I was saying that we could either get the data once, or we could listen for changes in the data, which is what we're doing here. So when there's a value change, we should, in theory, commit a new set collections. So let's trigger a value change. We can't do it by clicking on things because we've not done the hooked up the mutations yet. They're still going to Axios. But what we can do is, instead of Salsonite to Dave's Cantina, we can do Salsonite at Claire's Cantina. You can see everything that highlighted in yellow there had a change triggered, and it should Salsonite at Claire's Cantina. There we go. So now every time there's a change in the database, it gets updated in the app, which is really good for what we want to do. So now, I mean, we're not going to be changing the names of the cards and things, but what we are going to be doing is we're going to be moving the cards from one collection to another, across multiple devices, across multiple people, blah, blah, blah. So being able to have a change triggered on one person's screen, it'll send it up to the database. The database will say, okay, there's been a change, who needs to know about it? And that change will then propagate to every other player, which we're starting to get into like the actual game thing again. I'm gonna change that back to Dave just to show how real time it is. So if I hit enter and move across, we see it's almost instant. So this it uses WebSockets. WebSockets can be a bit strange, but this is just really nice. So I'm going to go away now and hook in the mutations into Firebase, and then I'll go over what I did there. It'd be a better way than you watching me muddle through it this time. Okay, who wants to see something really cool? So this is my secondary laptop. This is focus. In fact, wait, I'll turn this big light off. We are plunged into darkness. Can we see? Is that right? So this is my secondary laptop that is running the Devs Against Humanity test locally on my machine, and you should be able to see it up here. This is it running on an entirely different machine, and if I send this card, it sends it to both. Like how awesome is that? Huh? And we can send it on this one all into the deck. Oh, we have parity, and we can see if I'm gonna put this away and turn the light back on so you can see me again. Okay, so you can see if we have this on, not that part here, any change we make on this tab replicates in this one, and the animations stay as well, which is really nice. So we can send these, and then absolutely mint. We can see, in fact, I wonder if I make, bear with me, if I make a change on here, does it show us? There we go, we can see Firebase has just updated there. So we've got a card in the deck, and we draw from the deck, so it's updating deck and player 1, and it's updating deck and player 1, and we see that card just got added there. And if we remove a duffel bag full of lizards locally, there we go, it's moved into the play area. Now this was actually really rather simple to do. I've had to change the package.json a little bit just to add this host argument here, so that I could actually access the locally running app from a different computer that's just on the same network but not the same device. Not important. Yeah, so if we look in here, in fact we probably don't even need, no we do, yeah. So what we did before we had any of the Firebase stuff was simply that, and that would update. It would go get the payload, it would pull out the card ID, the origin and the destination, it would get us an origin collection and a destination collection, and then it would find the card from the origin collection, and then we would splice the origin collection to remove the card, and then we would push that card to the destination collection. And then all we need to do with Firebase, we say collections, actually I've abstracted the database to this collections variable up here to say Firebase database ref collections, just so that we can call collections.on down here and collections whatever .set down here, so that we're not repeating this every single time. Anyway, so we say the collections, so that would give us collections, and we say .child origin, so this would be deck or player 1 or play area or whatever, and we set that to match what the origin collection is in our app. And then we do exactly the same for the destination. So we say get the destination from the collections in Firebase and set that to be the same as the destination collection that we have locally. Yeah, but I see it's pretty straightforward, really. There was one thing that tripped me up, and that was where are we? Up here in the destination collection. So this is similar to the issue we had before with the getters. So where we were saying return the cards in a certain location or an empty array. We have to do exactly the same thing with the destination collection, because while the origin is guaranteed to exist because we are selecting a card from that origin, so it has to have something in it, it has to exist because otherwise we couldn't have clicked on that card. The destination may not exist, so you'll see in here in Firebase we've currently got the deck, play area and player 1, but if we empty out the play area, for example, Firebase, as you saw it flash away there, Firebase has removed the play area because there's nothing in it. So if we were to move something to the play area, the play area doesn't exist as an array, so the destination doesn't currently exist. So we have to make an empty array that just is that destination. That's all that does. That's what was tripping us up. And then after that, everything else just kind of worked. I'm saying it's straightforward. I realise that's quite often a very patronising thing to say if you are stuck with this. It's straightforward for me because I have used Firebase before. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you know Firebase and you know Vuex, they play together quite nicely. And it is literally just the same as saying make sure our origin collection matches the origin in the database, and make sure our destination collection matches the destination in the database. Now the reason this updates is because as soon as we say set this data or set this data, our listener here that's listening for a value change on the database pulls in all the collections again, so the app updates on our screen and on everybody else's screen. Okay, that's enough for today. It's really nice outside, and I'm gonna go and enjoy the sun. To be honest, I will see you in 2 weeks on May the 17th. Like, subscribe, all that general YouTube nonsense. Just remember, I kind of have a general idea of what I'm doing now.